Hello, welcome to a Titanic deck tech video. Today we are going to put some rocket boots on Sauron the Necromancer, and we're gonna get in. We're gonna get in real quick, and we're gonna deliver the underworld nastiness to our opponents. It's gonna be amazing. What's really cool about EDH is that it has these really nice hasty artifacts, right? So for instance, a Lightning Greaves, where we just pay the 2, like maybe on an earlier turn cycle, and when our commander comes out, we just can freely equip this to our commander and have it swing in like as soon as possible. It also gives it Shroud, meaning that it can't be the target of spells or abilities, which is really good for this deck because we're not, in black, we're not going to really be targeting any of our creatures with spells per se. At least the ones that are more beneficial for us, we're definitely not going to be targeting them. So it's perfect for us. So this is a nice one for sure. Additionally, this one's very similar. Swiftfoot Boots is a 2 cost as well. It gives our creature hexproof and haste. So for hexproof, we can still target that creature with our spells, but our opponent can't target our creature with their spells, which is different than Lightning Greaves. Lightning Greaves prevents any type of spells from touching that creature in general, even your own. So that's the difference between the two. Also, the difference is this has an equip cost of 1. So, we might not always be able to be readily able to equip our commander on curve, whereas the Lightning Greaves would be on like de facto, right? So that's a pretty big difference, but Swiftfoot Boots is still going to get the job done. It's still what we want to be, right where we want to be with our commander. Reasoning why is Sauron the Necromancer is a 3 colorless, 2 black, legendary creature avatar horror with menace. Whenever Sauron the Necromancer attacks, exile a target creature card from your graveyard. Create a tapped and attacking token that's a copy of that card, except it's a 3/3 black wraith with menace. At the beginning of the next end step, exile that token unless Sauron is your ring bearer. The way that this card usually becomes a ring bearer is when you have like a Nazgûl in your graveyard and you resurrect it, and it enters the battlefield, and then you go ahead and target Sauron, make it the ring to get the ring tempting mechanic onto the creature Sauron, and then that wraith ends up sticking. So that's kind of the way that you kind of let that kind of occur. That's one of the ways you can definitely get Sauron to be the ring bearer. I can't believe I'm talking about Sauron and ring bearers and magic. So I'm shouting out all my friends back in the day. Yo, Lord of the Rings is here. It's crazy. All right. So, what's the support for this? We're gonna first talk about like how to get the things in the yard and kind of our biggest payoffs. So, here we go. A very, very powerful card, of course, is Entomb, which we can just take any card in our library and put that card in our graveyard, then shuffle. So that will definitely be something. We can find a nice creature that we want to put in there. That'd be nice. Some other things that just build our graveyard in general, like the Troll of Khazad-dûm. This is a new one from the Lord of the Rings set as well. Another Lord of the Rings card. This one's fun because it has a swamp cycling, so we can put this thing in our graveyard, and then we can go find a swamp of our choice, and then put it into our hand. And then we'll have a creature card in the graveyard, which is fine. It might be useful later on, and you'll see. Shriekhorn, of course, is just a nice one to build our graveyard in general. Also, like in general, I really like the Troll just because it, kind of gives us it gives another opportunity for a creature to be in our yard, which is important for Sauron. We want things to, activate when we do attack, right? All right, here's Egon, the God of Death. So that's a nice one as well. And that one has the Throne of Death. These are all cards that are going to build our graveyard. The Shriekhorn, of course, will be the one that we just tap it down to put two cards into our graveyard. You can do that 3 times total with Shriekhorn. There's the Throne of Death, so it just goes ahead and mills a card on our upkeep, so that one's nice. Disher Supplier, that one's just comes down and mills 3 cards, and then when it dies, it can put another 3 cards into your graveyard. So this is all just our graveyard value, right? Golgari Thug, some nice dredge here. And that's why also like a card like the Troll does well, because it kind of gives us a card to return to the top of our library, and then we can go ahead and dredge. Otherwise, if we sacrifice a Golgari Thug, it just returns itself to the top of the library. We don't want that. So it's good to have like a creature card like Troll, like kind of in there, you know, it just gives us another chance for that. Here's the Undead Butler. This one's really sweet, where we can actually return a card if we want to return a creature card to our hand. And of course, when it enters the battlefield, we mill 3 cards. That's fantastic. Mesmeric Orb. This one's getting a lot of attention because of the Mothman, the Wise Mothman. So that's a new card from Fallout. And that one has to do with milling an abundance of cards into players' graveyards. So if that is a more popular commander, my deck would love that. I'd love cards to be in my graveyard. So, you know, the Mesmeric Orb, that will benefit all the players. If they do have graveyard value, it'll also benefit me greatly. So that's the trade-off. Okay, there we go. Mire Triton. All right, so there's that. And that will go ahead and give me the 2 cards into the graveyard, and also gains me 2 life. And also it's just a nice death toucher in general. Kind of a nice target to come back to be honest, even for a 2-drop. Turmeric Calls the Dead, just an abundance of mills into our graveyard. So we just have a lot of, you know, graveyard value. We want to make sure we're getting stuff in there, right? It's the Celestis. Fantastic mana ramp for mono black. Additionally, it has that discard cycle where when the day to night changes, you go ahead and put a card into the, you draw a card, discard a card, and you may do that. So that's nice. And you get the life for it too. You get the life already when it changes from day to night. So that's cool. Incarnation Technique. This is the one where you can demonstrate, you can have an opponent do the same action, and then you get to copy this, and so you basically do it twice. So mill 5 cards, then return a creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield, and then you could demonstrate, of course, and then copy it. So then an opponent would do it as well, and then go ahead and additionally you would do the mill 5 again, and then return a creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. It doesn't have to be amongst those mill cards either, so very good for us. And here's our big payoff, like our big payoffs for Sauron. And I'll just highlight these 2 because Sauron, when it resurrects a card, that card has haste, right? So what a perfect card would be, like Ancient Brass Dragon, to connect with something like this. And then you're just rolling that D20 and you're just returning all those creature cards based on that mana value, like total, right? So, you know, if you roll a good number, you can probably bring back like 4 to 5 creatures. So a really good deal for us. Additionally, we're looking for Enter the Battlefield triggers too with Sauron. So this one, when it comes on the battlefield, the Sepulchral Primordial, it's going to, for each opponent, you may put up to 1 target creature card from that player's graveyard on the battlefield under our control. So it just derives value from our opponent's graveyards too. So those are just very nice hits in general for Sauron. Additionally, we're going to have to, for our Enter the Battlefield triggers, we're going to definitely be playing the Panharmonicon. This card's amazing, you know, and I've kind of experienced a lot of decks, and I've always tried to like fit in the Panharmonicon, but this one seems to really favor it. Just seems like a very nice Panharmonicon deck. There's lots of Enter the Battlefield signature triggers. It seems like every card I have has kind of an Enter the Battlefield. There's lots of value in mono black. You'll see that. Lots of graveyard value. Just, I think it's overall like of an abundance of value. You get a lot of value from your cards. You might not have the best mana ramp. You might not get to like, you know, to have that, always that abundance of, you know, mana to spend, you know, and that's kind of, you know, there's pros and cons to that, but the cards here have a lot of value. So for instance, like an Ayara, this has some very nice Enter the Battlefield payoffs where you have a black creature that enters the battlefield and each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. And with a Panharmonicon, that would be doubled. Additionally, this has card draw on it too. And additionally, it has Tor Devotion for our Nykthos. Additionally, another card that I've made a whole video about was the Grey Merchant of Asphodel. Asphodel. And this is the one where it enters the battlefield, and each opponent loses X life, where X is your devotion to black. You gain life equal to life lost this way. Each swamp and the mana cost of permanents you control counts toward your devotion to black. So for instance, if we had an IR on the battlefield and we had a Grey Merchant of Asphodel on the entering the battlefield, that would be a total of 5 devotion, and each of our opponents would lose 5 life, and if we had 3 opponents, we'd gain 15 because it's each of the life lost that way. If we had a Panharmonicon on that battlefield at the time, each opponent would lose 10 life, and we would gain 30. So that's extraordinary. That just sounds like an OTK situation to me, where we're playing the Grey Merchant, and then we're sacrificing it, and then with Sauron we're swinging, and we're just doing it all over again, to finish it off. It just seems like that's kind of just the way to do it. In the commander setup, it seems like it's going to be, and this is just the bare minimum right here. Like, we're probably going to have like a decent amount of permanents. Our devotion with Grey Merchant is probably going to be at least at 7. We have Meat Hook Massacre, we have Necropotence, we have like Dalthy Voidwalkers and Bloodghasts. We have all sorts of things that will add to our devotion. So even our commander. So, that's going to be fantastic. Let's talk about another enter the battlefield guy. This is kind of just fits right into that last slot where it could get really busy, right? It can really swing a game. And with a Panharmonicon, it's probably going to clear most of the things out, giving things like -4, and then whenever a creature opponent control dies, that player loses 2 life. So the token decks just hate this card. It's just devastating to them. So yeah, as long as the tokens don't get too big, and the Panharmonicon can help, so, but we will expect to hit some things with this -2/2. So there's that. All right, now let's talk about a couple more of our hits off of Sauron, because they are exceptional. So for instance, the Burning Rune Demon as well. This one is really nice. I really like this one a lot because you can pose your opponent with a situation. You can give them like 2 options that are not good. For instance, imagine we had like a lot of devotion on the table, right? And we go ahead and have the Burning Rune Demon, and we'll give our opponent the option to pick between like a Panharmonicon or a Grey Merchant. And they're gonna have to pick the Panharmonicon, because if they pick the Grey Merchant, that card's going to come down and it's going to deal so much damage to everybody. So they're kind of forced, right? The thing about that Grey Merchant, it goes into our graveyard. We have so many ways to get that back through our reanimation spells, that it's not going to be like too much of a problem for the Grey Merchant to be in the graveyard. We have an abundance of spells that will resurrect it, like Reanimate, Persist, Animate Dead, Stitch Together, Agony Awakening. Those are the cards like that are just going to be so easy to resurrect the Grey Merchant. So I mean, getting that this card, like getting our Panharmonicon, like another like serious win con for us into our hand, and then the Grey Merchant to the graveyard is like, it's massive. It's a huge boon for us. It's like a double tutor. It's perfect. So you have to kind of see when you're playing black, like you have like 2 hands going on. You have the hand in your hand, and then you have the hand in your graveyard. And it's just kind of you like deciding to balance and being aware of that, like the cards of what they do. That's the best way I'd see like a decent mono black deck. And after you tool it for a while, you'll kind of see that basically you're playing with 2 hands in front of you, right? So now, on the topic of tutors, we're going to be playing some really awesome ones, like the Wishclaw Talisman. One's a really good political one too. Where, for instance, like maybe like you can work with an opponent to like maybe solve like maybe a problematic enchantment or artifact on the battlefield. As long as like you're going to search up something that's like for value and not going to be like comboing off. You can use this as like a very good political tool. Additionally, we're just going to be playing like the awesome like diabolic intent as well, where we're going to be sacrificing a creature. And this one's more budgety too, like of course we could just be playing a demonic tutor here, but this is fine, right? This is fine. It's just you sacrifice a creature and then you search your library for a card and put it in your hand. Additionally, you have this guy too, which is going to be great with Sauron. So basically we have like two demons, the rune demons, and they both have rune in their name, ironically. Burning Rune Demon and Rune Scar Demon. This one will just go ahead and tutor up any card, and it just goes into your hand immediately. So it is another awesome target for Sauron. Now let's talk about like our big, kind of the crux of the deck, the kind of that will kind of, build our powers. So this card is just so amazing with any of our Nazgûl, the Call of the Ring. It basically, with the Nazgûl online, this thing becomes kind of like a Sylvan library. And what I mean by that is it's going to generate so many cards. There's so many ring temps triggers that go on, like with the Nazgûl in general. So the Nazgûl comes on. If you had this online, you'd go ahead and draw. You pay that 2 life and draw. So that's nice. And then on your upkeep, it always goes off, and you can either target yourself or a creature. So if we're just going to, target our Nazgûl, and we're going to just draw a card because we're going to target that creature to be a ring bearer. We're going to draw. So it's just like drawing a bunch of cards, right? So an extreme amount. And while doing so, making our Nazgûl very strong as well. And surely, I know like Arena is not always the friendliest economic place, but I just encourage you just to go ahead and like, these are on the uncommon side. Just go ahead and just pop like, spend 9 uncommon wild cards and just play like anything Nazgûl, like anything remotely, like just do it. And you're going to see like these Nazgûl are not messing around. They are extremely strong. They get very strong very quickly. They all have death touch. They all do very nice things with these ring mechanics. About, I think on stage, it might be stage 2, I believe so. That's when you can start looting with it, when your ring bear attacks. So it's just an amazing mechanic and very strong. So we're going to be playing all the 9 Nazgûl. Again, it's just going to be pumping our graveyard. And it's going to be in that Wraith synergy with our Sauron too. So all of our Wraiths get really strong together. It's just a win-win situation. So there's that. So there's the Nazgûl. All right, so we kind of went over the reanimation spells here. There's kind of reanimate is just that really amazing one, right? Where it is a sorcery. Put target creature card from your graveyard on the battlefield under your control. You lose life equal to its converted mana cost. So that's a trade-off, of course. And Commander, you have quite a bit of life to work with, so it doesn't hurt too much, right? So, I mean, Reanimate is just a fantastic card for us. It's what a reduction this is from some of the reanimation spells they print in Standard. They're like 4 and 5 cost. They're just nothing serviceable really compared to this. I mean, this is could you imagine like a turn 1 Atraxa or a turn 2 Atraxa or something like that? That's like kind of what this enables, right? Persist. There's Persist. That's very similar, except it does non-legendary onlys for 2 costs. Animate Dead. These all kind of have a similar function, just returning a creature card to the battlefield, and they're very affordable. This one's nice because it increases your devotion too. It sticks on the battlefield as an enchantment. Stitch Together, that one's nice. That one's reaches this threshold. If you have 7 or more cards in your graveyard, you go ahead and return a creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield rather than to your hand. So that one's fine. Douthie Voidwalker. This one is just, one of those OG creatures that as cards go into opponents' graveyards, they can be exiled with void counters, and then we can sacrifice the Douthie to cast one of those spells. And the thing about it is bringing them back and doing it over again with some other, to keep those spells going. It seems like a good plan, huh? Here's Jadar. Jadar is fantastic because it's going to just create a sack fodder for us. It's going to create that zombie, over and over again. At their end step, if we don't have any creatures with decay, we're going to create another 2/2 black zombie with decay. So also similarly, Orcish Bowmaster is just creating that token for fodder. It's just amazing, and it just keeps doing that as it does that upon entering the battlefield, and then as if we don't have anything with the mass, if we don't have any orcs, when our opponents draw an additional card, then we go ahead and mass the orcs again, so it can create those kind of more sack fodder for us. Here's this going to be the Bloodghast here. We don't have that one yet. It's coming. Bloodghast is a 2/2 black creature here. It's a 2/1, and whenever a land comes onto the battlefield, you can return it to the battlefield straight from the battlefield from your graveyard. It's an amazing card too. Skull Clamp. This one we set that up on a creature. When that creature dies, we draw 2 cards. Deadly Dispute for a little ramp and a little cards too. I like the Treasure just to get that little extra ramp. Here's Braids. Fantastic. I think I was going to include Gix in this one too, so I have to find a spot for Gix. Gix is pretty good as well, because we do make kind of a good amount of creatures, so we'll have to figure that one out. Here's Yogg. Yogg is that one that you can just go ahead, it has that free sacrifice outlet. Also puts on -1 counters on creatures, which is also cool. And you'll draw once the creature is sacrificed. It could also proliferate here. Has protection from humans. I can imagine the Gix going over into this place like a Morbid Opportunist. This is a fine card, of course. This one will just draw a card as creatures die, and it resolves once a turn. So I think the Gix could have a little higher ceiling, just slightly higher. Here's Necropotence. This one is amazing. This one is an interesting card to use, and I'm still kind of learning to utilize it, but basically you draw on the end step. And then the thing about the Necropotence is that you don't draw. You don't draw during your draw step anymore. So it's a very interesting card. So you can imagine, I think for Commander, I think you want to just tone your hand as much as possible, right? So you're probably sinking 5 life or 6 life into this right when it comes down, as soon as possible, right? Just to kind of tone your hand and really, really fine tune it out. You'll be discarding those cards on your end step too. So you just have to be, kind of keep refilling, and you just basically draw on your end step. It's basically you fill up on your end and during your end step. So that's the interesting part about it. So yeah, it's a very cool card though, no doubt about it. And you can really have some nice selection. You can really go through your deck and kind of get what you need. So there's Necropotence, fantastic card. And let's just keep moving here. I'm just kind of going through, this is our value, Black Market Connection, the One Ring, Bolas Citadel. So that's all our value, right? Our super value, starting with Necropotence. Then we're going to have some removal, of course. We're going to have our removal set up here, a Meat Hook Massacre, Toxic Deluge, and Blood on the Snow. That seems fine. And we're going to have our ramp here, Wayfarer's Bauble, Soul Ring, Springleaf Drum, Dark Ritual, Mindstone, Arcane Signet, Dot Vessel. So that's basically our mana ramp there. Now the lands is really the cream of the crop, right? It was amazing lands like Agadeem's Awakening. This has to be going in, where you're going to be able to resurrect a Grey Merchant of Asphodel and end the game on the spot. Late game, mid game, go ahead. Just have this card that could act as a land maybe in the early game or as a spell. It's just so good. So there's Agadeem's Awakening, Malika Rebirth. That's the one where we can go ahead and, as an instant, if one of our things is about to be removed from a destroy effect or in combat, we go ahead and just sink in the Malika Rebirth and then have it come back tapped at the end return it tapped under its owner's control, like immediately. So that's a very interesting card as well. Also can act as a land, very cool. Dackmore Salvage for some more dredge. That should be very nice for us. Here's some nice tech for us, the Roadside Reliquary. This one's nice where we could draw like a couple cards if we have an enchantment and an artifact on the battlefield. We have quite a few of those, so it should be a nice fit. It shouldn't be like a, it should be, if we need to draw, you know, we can go ahead and pay 2 and sacrifice this. Not a big deal, sounds good to me. Castle Locthwain. That one's the nice, also a castle. Of course, it comes into battlefield if you control swamp. It can add swamp, and then for a tap and paying 1 and 2 black, draw a card. So once again, just getting values from our lands, perfect. Here's Nykthos, Shrine to Nyx. This one is the mega card, and it's gonna work off of our devotion. And just for the small price of 2 and a tapped, we're gonna be adding all the mana from based on the devotion we have on the battlefield. And it's crazy, like you're gonna be like creating like, you're gonna be producing like 5 mana for the cost of like basically 3 lands or more. You know, it's just an exponential kind of mana ramp in the land. It's fantastic for mono-colored decks, obviously. This one's amazing too. The Phyrexian Tower, where we're just sacrificing a creature and adding 2 black. And otherwise, it just adds colorless. It's amazing. That's why it's a $40 card. Here is the Cabal Coffers. So that one is just sweet as well, where we're just paying 2, tapping, and adding the swamp to our mana pool for each swamp you control. So that one's nice too. Cabal Stronghold, this one will add colorless, or for 3 colorless and a tap, add swamp for each basic swamp you control. Crypt of Agadine. This one will come untapped. It will produce swamp, and for 2 and a tap, add black to your mana pool for each black creature card in your graveyard. We're gonna have so many of those. We're gonna put so many things in our graveyard, you know. So it's gonna be awesome. Here's Urza Saga. This is just gonna find us like those sweet 1 mana artifacts. We might find a Soul Ring. We might find a Shriek Horn. We might find a Skull Clamp. I mean, so many choices to get from it, right? Faceless Haven, just another nice. This will become a Wraith. You know, we want to swing in for those lethals and get the Faithless Haven buff, like with the Ring Temps. It's amazing, right? It's gonna be awesome. Hive of the Eye Tyrant, just another offensive creature that can get in there. Exile people's things from the graveyard as well. Takenuma, this can build our graveyard, bring back a creature, or act as a swamp. Then we have the Bajuka Bog, and this is the one where it comes in the battlefield and empties up an opponent's graveyard. So if there's an opponent getting too much value from that graveyard, I'm gonna say no more value. And then we just have all these different kinds of snow-covered swamps, and they're not gonna match at all. Some are gonna be foily. Some aren't. Some are gonna look a little different than the others, but that's just how it's gonna go for now. And that's it, everybody. So that was the full deck tech. I stayed under 30 minutes. That's fantastic. I really did. I really did it. Where's our commander at? That's the thing when you're doing like 99 cards. It's hard to sometimes to keep track. This is not our commander, but Yawgmoth is a sick one, huh? He's a cool commander. I bet he would probably be pretty fun. Probably do some fun stuff with the Yogg. All right, there he is. There it is. The Sauron the Necromancer. You made it happen, brother. All right. Well, have a wonderful night, everybody. I hope you enjoy it. Hope you're getting inspired for whatever decks you want to build next. Bye-bye.